Well, hi everybody, and welcome to a very special Hollywood Friday. It's November 11th, 2011. I'm your host, Kevin Kuretzky, and this is the Kevin Kuretzky Show. Before we start, how could I start this show without this song? That is the incomparable Audrey Hepburn, and today we are talking about none other than the Hollywood classic Breakfast at Tiffany's, a movie that for generations and decades has inspired people all over the world. The story of Holly Golightly and all Audrey Hepburn. Could you imagine anyone else now not being Holly Golightly without being Audrey Hepburn? I certainly can't. I even pulled out my Tiffany blues today. My Tiffany blue shirt, my Tiffany blue box, and we're going to talk about Breakfast at Tiffany's today.
A lot of world to see.
That song, of course, was Moon River. And in that line, "There's such a lot of world to see," inspired me for many years. Moon River was really not going to be in the finished product of Paramount's 1961 feature film Breakfast at Tiffany's. As a matter of fact, Holly Golightly might not have been played by Audrey Hepburn had Marilyn Monroe accepted the role. Could you imagine Marilyn Monroe in Breakfast at Tiffany's? So on Hollywood Fridays, we're going to start discussing other movies, TV shows, music, and I got a ton of emails about this. It was all inspired by reading this book, Fifth Avenue, 5 a.m., Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and the Dawn of Modern Woman. If you haven't read this or you see it, pick it up. It is a great read. It is all about the making of Breakfast at Tiffany's, and what's interesting is how it's inspired so many people. I got a lot of emails, and I want to pick out some of my favorites. And I'm going to talk about some quotes, and let's talk a little bit about the Breakfast at Tiffany's based on Truman Capote's 1958 novella, which was actually printed before in book form. It was actually printed in Esquire magazine. So they wanted Marilyn Monroe to play Holly Golightly. And the thing is, the intention behind this show wasn't just the movie itself, which is great enough, but it was really about why do people connect with Holly Golightly all these years later, 50 years later, 50th anniversary. This book is the 50th anniversary companion. And the reason is, she was searching for her place in the world. She was searching for a place like Tiffany's to make her feel complete. And the truth is, aren't we all searching for that place? I know I certainly am. And what I'm proud to say is I found it, just like many of my viewers. So let's start with this. My favorite quote of the movie. My favorite quote of the movie, and how I knew I had to have this book, the 50th Anniversary Companion, was right here on the back with, of course, that impression of Audrey Hepburn. That is classic right there. It was the quote right on the back, and it spoke to me, and nothing happens by coincidence. My favorite quote of the movie is, "If I could find a real life place that made me feel like Tiffany's, then I'd buy some furniture and give the cat a name." It inspired me to find my real life Tiffany's, and I have in my life. I found a place where in my career and my home life, I can feel safe, secure, and know that nothing bad could ever happen to me in a place like Tiffany's. I have my own Tiffany. I've made my own world. Some other quotes I got were from Jerry in New York City. Thanks for watching, Jerry, and thank you, New York City. His favorite line was, and it's one of mine, I did it last week in the promo for it, but I gotta say it again, and I love how she says it in the movie. "I'm crazy about Tiffany's." Jerry says that the reason he moved to New York City was when he was a kid, he saw Breakfast at Tiffany's, and he knew there was no other place more exciting or more identifiable that he wanted to go to. That was his place, and that Breakfast at Tiffany's inspired that. You know, before Sex and the City used New York as really the fifth character, Breakfast at Tiffany's did that. It was one of the really first movies to be really shot in New York City at Tiffany's, Fifth Avenue, really the first place to do that. So it really made New York a central character in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Jennifer in Chicago wrote, "I moved from a small town in Kentucky to live in a big city like Holly. I even worked at Tiffany's in Chicago on the Miracle Mile for many years. I just had to do it. I had to live my life and see where it would take me. I was so inspired by Breakfast at Tiffany's, I wanted to be just like Holly. As a matter of fact, I have my little black dress, always." We're going to talk about the little black dress in just a minute. She says, by the way, Jennifer, thanks for watching, and thank you, Chicago, for watching. She says, her favorite quote in the movie was, "Don't you just love the proud look of it? And Paul, the other character, who's played by George Peppard, says, "Of what?" And of course, Holly Golightly says, "Tiffany's, of course." She said that was her favorite part of the movie, that Tiffany's was so central in that. As a matter of fact, people still go to Tiffany's just because of the movie, because it's become so synonymous with the Audrey Hepburn classic. I did. Hey, when I went to New York, and I'll tell you that story in just a minute, I had to have breakfast at Tiffany's. Tony in Las Vegas wrote, "It made me believe that anything is possible. Breakfast at Tiffany's was about just go and do it. I never tried it before, so I'm going to try it now." His favorite quote is when Holly's character is drunk, and she says to George Peppard's character, "It should take you 4 minutes from here to that door. I'll give you 2. He loves that. I love that line too, Tony. And Tony, thanks for watching. As a matter of fact, we'll be in Las Vegas January. We go every year for the Miss America pageant. We'll be in Las Vegas. So if you have a chance, come see the Kevin Kuretzky Show. We'll be filming throughout the week there. Breakfast at Tiffany's, I believe, has sustained because each one of us has a little bit of Holly in us. Holly was a dreamer. Holly was somebody who knew there was so much to see and do. And that was the crux of the movie, was that she needed to find her place. And I know that growing up, I always felt that I knew there was a place for me, that I would fit in and be a part of the world. And I knew that I wanted to see the world. I didn't just want to stay in my own little place. And that's the feedback I got from a lot of viewers, was the impression that Holly Golightly really went out there and did it. So it's been 50 years. It still has an impact, Breakfast at Tiffany's. First of all, the little black dress that Jennifer mentioned from Chicago, it became so synonymous. It was designed by Hubert D. Da Vinci, who is also synonymous with Audrey Hepburn. It is amazing that the little black dress has still found a home. And the reason it's so popular is you can accessorize a little black dress with anything. In the movie, she goes from wearing a big hat with it to a little hat to different jewelry. It still has an impact. As a matter of fact, the Audrey Hepburn style in Breakfast at Tiffany's has a huge impact. Also, Audrey's style, it's amazing that her image is still on calendars, books, bags. I was just in Bangkok last week, and what was amazing to me where they had a whole rack of Holly Golightly's character on bags, like of Audrey's face as Holly Golightly on a ton of bags. And if that doesn't have a lasting impact, I'll tell you what, I don't know what does. It was right up there with Elvis and Marilyn Monroe, some icons of our generation. Moon River, the song we started with, it is in the American consciousness. It can't take you except to that place. The song was not about to be used, actually. Matter of fact, they wanted to cut it because they weren't sure of Audrey's voice, how it was going to go over. I'm so happy they did. So, go grab your copy of Breakfast at Tiffany's, revisit the film. It's a classic. It is really who each one of us want to be, and we all love to be a little bit of Holly. The other thing is I was going to tell you about my Tiffany experience. I was in New York many years ago, and of course I went to Tiffany's, and I was at a place in my life where I felt that safety and security. And so I went in and I bought their official Atlas ring. And this ring symbolizes to me that anything is possible. Whenever I feel that I can't accomplish something, or something's too difficult, or I don't want to do something, I remember this, that anything is possible. You can do anything for yourself. And that's what Breakfast at Tiffany means to me. So, if you have a Breakfast at Tiffany's fan, Audrey Hepburn fan, this book, Breakfast at Tiffany's, a 50th year official companion, a great holiday gift. Also, Fifth Avenue at 5 a.m., another great stocking stuffer. And, of course, the DVD. How can you go wrong? So everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's Breakfast at Tiffany's, our first Hollywood Friday. Next week, we are going to talk about the legacy of one of my favorite television shows, so give me some feedback, the original, and I mean Farrah, Kate, and Jacqueline, Charlie's Angels. I'll see you next week, everybody. What I know for certain is we all have a little bit of Holly in us, and I hope you find your Tiffany's. I'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. We're all in this together. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.